Welcome to the VAN training for data entry. So one of the things that you are probably going to be asked to do if you show up to a campaign office and say, I want to help with tech things, I want to do something that isn't calling people on the phone or walking a walk packet and knocking on doors and canvassing, they're probably going to ask you to do data entry. And doing data entry in VAN is pretty simple. There are several ways of doing it, though, so I'm just going to take you through 3 of those ways and their different uses. So just a moment, going to begin screen, and I will show you. Okay, so here is just a refresher. We've got the My Voter side where all your voter contact data is, all the voter files in here. The My Campaign side where you've got your volunteers and managing their event participation and other things like that, scheduling them, keeping track of them. So one of the things we're going to do is show the different ways we can get to the data entry. So first of all, here over on the right, we've got the load data section. And so if your account has access to entering this kind of data, which if you're doing data entry, they will give you the right kind of account, and it will have this load data section. And it will have quick mark, might have scan barcode, script view, grid view, and form view. So the other ways of navigating to these data entry options are in this sidebar, which you can see over here. You can find all of these data entry methods on the left side of the screen too. You can also sometimes, if you're looking at a list, have the option to enter a data entry method here at the top by loading it into a particular data entry view. But typically, you're just going to be like, okay, need to do some data entry. Go over here to the load data section. The differences between these different methods of loading data or entering data are quick mark is good for searching a list of people that you don't have pre-generated. You don't have a list that's been taken out of VAN and can be re-entered using a list number or something like that. You've just got a loose list of people written on a piece of paper or something, or from a spreadsheet that you can't upload. And you just need to mark one piece of information for each of those people pretty quickly. So quick mark is based on the quick lookup search system that we did last time. It can do all of these things and sometimes more. You'll notice on this side we don't have schedule for an event as an option, but if we go over to the My Campaign side of the database and we go to quick mark, and it asks us which piece of data do we want to attach to all these people we're going to search, schedule for an event or schedule for an event using the event scheduler are going to be on there. And so I'll cover those in a second. But for now, we're just going to look at voters, and we're going to be adding a survey response. So this is just assuming that I've got some information, a list of people, and I've gotten the answers to one particular survey response. You can do quick mark to mark like a series of things about people, but you'll have to do multiple passes on the same list. So this isn't the best tool for that. So we're going to be doing this survey question. You always set the date, and they may have been asked this question last week on the 11th. The canvasser is always auto-filled based on the account you're logged in as. If you're logged into a generic account, it may be, volunteer 5, data entry volunteer, or whatever. If you're logged into your own personal account, it will be you as the canvasser. That's very standard practice, so don't worry about entering data that has you as the canvasser when you didn't actually talk to the person. That is expected. And then the how is going to be how was this data collected. So you can see there's a whole bunch of methods here. we're going to pick phone, just assume that we spoke to these people on the phone. Then we come back to this same quick lookup layout where we've got last name, first name, all these pieces of information. Again, partial names. If I go for Joseph Smith, partial names work. No other partial piece of information is going to work. And so I can search for this guy, and I find, look, Joe Smith is already strong Beckman, but I'm looking for a particular Joe Smith, this one, and then I just get a drop down and I can answer this one question. But I can't put in any extra information about this person. I can't update their phone number. I can't do anything like that. I can click through to their profile or open up their profile in a new window and do that information as I go, but that's a little cumbersome. So this process is really best when you're just adding one piece of information to a whole bunch of people at once. Then a little trick to remember is that you have this button here labeled save/search. That's because it does both at once. So I've changed this, I've marked it as Lean, Beckman, or whatever, and now I want to search another voter. And so I can save the previous thing I marked and search the next person at the same time. So I don't have to worry about, oh, did that person's data get saved before I go on to the next search? It's saved, and I can search for the next person. So that is quick mark for a survey response. Another thing that we might mark somebody as is having an activist code. So we could pick, again, we have to pick which activist code is. We could say, oh, we've got a list of union members from the union. We want to mark all of these people as union members, when this data was collected, and again, how. On the My Campaign side, you'll be able to use quick mark to schedule a whole bunch of people to an event quickly, and you can either select schedule for an event, and you'll have to pick a date of the event and then look up the name of the event. It will ask you a shift if the event has shifts, and you'll be applying a status for that person. So this person may be, these people, you've got them signed up, they're going to be the scheduled status. You can add a contact history, in which case it'll ask you when you contacted them, how you contacted them, and you'll be put in automatically as the canvasser. Then you will find yourself on the same thing. So on either side, My Campaign or My Voters, quick mark looks the same, and you search people up. Up here in the corner, I've clicked this little blue gear up here. Blue gear is helpful for if you want to change how many rows of results you get when you search. If you're searching something big and you want a bigger list, if you want to change the columns that display, you can move these down just by dragging them, so you can get rid of pieces of data that you find extraneous, or you can add pieces of data that you really need to show up to identify, you know, which voter do I need to add this particular piece of information to. So that's quick mark, good for adding a whole bunch of people, tagging people with an activist code, or answering one question that they've answered, a survey response they've answered, but not good for answering multiple things. So I want to show you briefly, before we move on to grid view or scanning barcodes, what a paper call list might look like, so that you can get an idea of that. So here we go. I think it's here. Report formats. Yes. Okay. So here is the call format, and we'll say we've contacted people by phone, or by, and we have a particular script. And so this is what a phone list is going to look like. You'll have tick boxes on the side here that your volunteers using this paper call list have called, and they will have ticked an answer here if they didn't get a hold of the person. These are survey responses, or an answer here, which are generated by the particular script. So these are answers to particular questions. You'll have a key of some kind that the campaign will give you so that you know what all of these codes represent. And at the bottom of a call sheet will be a number that is a list number. So normally you will, when you are doing grid view, which is for entering usually paper list data from canvases or from phone banks, you will go to grid view, you'll enter a list number, and that list will override whatever list you have loaded. Van can only hold one list at a time, so it will become the list you're using. I have a list loaded and I don't have a list number, so I'm going to check the option use my list. The other option is to use quick lookup and look up one person at a time on a list. And this gives you the option to pick a particular script, which may have multiple questions on it. So this would be a potential way to answer multiple questions for a person if you've got the script for it, unlike quick mark where you're just marking the one person or the one piece of information onto multiple people. But I'm just going to use the list I currently have loaded. So this list is going to show up with a particular script. I can pick the date that we canvass them. It's going to default to today, usually. How they were called. If you enter a list number, usually these script details are going to fill in automatically. When you change how the person was contacted, such as walk, it's going to organize itself automatically according to the sort order of the list you've got. So phone is going to sort by name and phone number. It's the same way when it's being generated. So the names on the paper list that you're entering are going to be the same order as the names in Van when you're doing this grid view. And then including notes and including follow-ups are two options that your campaign may use. I'm going to select them now so that I can show you what they look like, but you'll listen to the instructions of whatever campaign you're helping out in the field according to whether they want you to take down the notes from the people who are calling or writing, or only particular notes, whether they use follow-ups or not. Generally speaking, campaigns try to ask people not to take too many notes, to just stick to the script and put in the check boxes, but sometimes volunteer callers are not good at following instructions also. So here we've got the list I loaded, and you can see it's got the information about the voter. This is similar to the information about the voter that will be on the paper call list that you're entering the data from. And then over here, when you scroll to the right, you've got the result. These are the results from a call that you didn't contact the person, you didn't get the answers to the questions. The notes thing is going to pop up here, the follow-up little flag, and then the questions on the script. So I've built this script with 3 questions, an ID question saying, do you support this candidate? Obviously, we want people to support Beckman, not Satan. Are they a healthcare voter, or do they want to volunteer? So these two are survey questions, and this is an activist code. So this is why grid view is used most often, because you're entering all the information that the campaign wants based on their call script. You'll notice that when I clicked something here, this grays out and I can't select it. That's because if they got any information out of the person in a conversation, they can't have not had a conversation with them, which is what these results are all about. Same thing here. If I select left message here, I can't also put the answer they gave me for their ID result. In general, a campaign is going to prefer this information over here, the answers to the questions they asked. If a canvasser has spoken to somebody at the door and gotten an undecided, but also didn't really speak to them, and so they also marked something on their sheet, like callback or something, right? The campaign is much more interested in the fact that they're undecided than the fact that they asked you to call back. So they're going to want you to fill in this information generally, but you should ask your campaign for instructions. And you are automatically filling in as the canvasser of this person. But you'll notice that in this view, I'm looking at the answers, but I can't even see the person's name. It's very annoying indeed. And also up here, I want to orient you to this records search. So here we go. We've got records 1 through 20 on this page. Usually call sheets are not 20 people long, so you'll quickly get lost on the page. You'll quickly run into issues there. You can jump around in your list by searching this van ID, which is printed on the page, and that will jump you to a certain point in the list. So if, for example, I go somewhere middle of the list, grab this person's van ID, go back to the beginning, and say I get a call sheet from the random middle of this list, I can just grab that van ID from the first person on the page of paper that I'm given to data enter, type that in up here, hit go, and it will jump me to that point on the list. So we've gone back to that same page. But this is pretty annoying that I can see the names over here, but I have to scroll all the way over to the side to get here to the answers. So usually you're going to go to change my settings. You're going to change the default rows to something much nicer, such as equal to the number of people you have on your call sheet or your walk sheet, or maybe equal to the number of people on 2 pages of that call sheet or walk sheet if you can go really fast. And you're going to go here. Okay, so what pieces of information do I need to identify somebody? Well, I don't really need their party. I don't really need their age. I don't really need their city, really their address even. Maybe I'll keep their van ID and their name, or their name and their phone number, but it's all on the sheet. It's all on the paper sheet, and it's in the same order as it is on the screen. So I could say there's 14 people per page. I've got their van ID, their name, all other information about them, but I don't need to see it on screen. And when I save these settings, again, which are accessed up here, this little blue gear, I've now got a results page that is actually on my one screen, which is a great blessing. The last thing that I want to point out is you've got, data entered for these people. This person was deceased. This person's voting for us. They love healthcare. They want to volunteer. This person is thinking about voting for us, doesn't want to volunteer, etc. You've done some data entry. And the rest of the people on the call sheet were just not home. So what you can do is mark remaining not home, and you can see it very nicely has marked all the blank ones that you didn't fill in on this page, not home. Something to remember about Van is that it oftentimes will log out after a period of inactivity, and what it considers inactivity is just being on the same page for a while. So you always have to hit save and wait for it to save and make sure it saves before you go on to your next page. So controls up here lets you save and then go on to the next page. I always hit save and then next, even though this next button says save next, because I don't quite trust it. So if you don't do that, if you are just entering data, you walk away for a while, you come back to it, you click somewhere, oftentimes it's going to just drop you back to the front page and you'll lose whatever data you were typing in and have to go redo that work. Something to note is that when you go back into the same list, sometimes it will not display this data you've just entered. Even if you've saved it, it will appear blank. that is somewhat annoying. Sometimes it happens that you can see it, but somebody else checking the same list will see it as blank. That just is an unavoidable issue. To check your work, make sure you've done it. You can click through somebody you know you entered data for, look at their profile. Oops. Let me click through, look at his profile, and go down and see, okay, what are his survey responses or activist codes or contact history. Okay, so look, we've properly entered that data because we do indeed have that wrong number that we entered earlier. So that's grid view, and the only other thing to note is this follow-up flag. So this is follow-up similar to if you saw the earlier one I did about voter profile. I talked about follow-ups as a tool where you can set a time to call back this person. You can assign a canvasser to follow up with them. You can set the method and you can set the priority and leave a note. And schedule that follow-up. And so now if you see on this page, in this little follow-up section, we have a little red 1 because that follow-up is assigned to me and it's in the future. So it's red. Oh, maybe it didn't save because I didn't hit save. Yikes. Okay, save. Now, still no follow-up. Weird. Oh, is it? Oh, I put it too far in the future. So let's try this. Yeah, okay, there he is. So that's grid view. Grid view is probably the most common. Quick mark, second most common, because usually you're entering data from one of those paper walk sheets or paper call sheets that a volunteer has called through or taken and gone door to door with and ticked those boxes. And that data needs to be entered into the system so that it can become part of the larger process of following up with those voters. Something that you can do also is form view, and I'm going to switch over to the My Campaign side to show you form view, because one use of form view is to enter information from like a paper sign-up sheet. And so I can just use quick lookup, and you can create forms. This demo version has a whole bunch of forms entered in as tests. But basically, you can create all these forms and enter manual results based on them. So if you've got a sign-up sheet where you're collecting people's contact information and maybe what kind of volunteering they want to do, then you can create a form that matches up to that sign-in sheet, and with these particular modular things, search a person. So let me search myself and find yourself. This is, again, this quick lookup style search. And when I click on myself, instead of going to my voter profile, I'm dropped onto the form. And so here I can edit any of this information that may already be in here. I can add blank information. I've set this one up as having address, first name, contact information, volunteer profile. You can also put event signups on this form. And if we go back, the other advantage of form view is we're searching people to put them on a volunteer sign-up form. Say we want Joseph Smith. We don't find him. Again, we can search my voter file from the My Campaign side and find the Joseph Smith that we have the contact information for or whatever, and copy that person over. And at this point, they're dropped onto the form with whatever information they had in their voter profile, and we can fill in whatever information additionally we collected from their volunteer sign-up or whatever form we're entering. So form view is a little more flexible if you have the ability to create a form and match it up to whatever paper form you're doing. Form view is another way, along with grid view, that you can get those multiple pieces of information attached to the same person, editing that person's information a little more than you can in grid view or quick mark. And those are the basic ways of entering data into Van. Thank you so much for coming, and I'm going to stop the recording and see if you have any questions.